afternoon, folks, and welcome to Irish Media Network Sports Update. I'm your host, Joe Caulfield, and welcome to the show. So let's kick off with a bit of sports roundup and what's happening in Irish sport this weekend. First of all, in rugby, Johnny Sexton returns to captain Ireland in their final Autumn Nations Cup match in their third place playoff against Scotland this weekend. Andy Farrell will be hoping for a win there to retrieve what has been a fairly poor season for them this year. In hurling, Eddie Brennan has announced today that he is going to take up a coaching role with Coola next season, having left the Laois managerial position last month. But the biggest show in town this weekend is the All-Ireland football semi-finals, Dublin taking on Cavan on Saturday and Mayo taking on Tipperary on Sunday. And joining me this week to chat about it is Conán Doherty of the GAA Hour podcast and SportsJoe.ie. Conán, thanks a million for joining me.
No problem. When you said the biggest show in town, I thought, oh my God, he's really teeing me up here for a big intro. But thankfully you're talking about the semi-finals and not me.
It's a good thing you have your priorities in order, Conán. I like that.
Yeah. Let's get on with it. This is a bad start for me now.
Don't worry about it, man. Let's jump straight in about talk. I'm really interested in talking about Mayo versus Tipperary. Because having followed the Mayo saga for a long time, like I was born in 89 and they've lost a number of All-Ireland since then, and like it can't be just a physical thing. It has to be partly psychological. And it was interesting that during the week, James Horan was talking about the fact that the lack of fans in attendance of these matches may actually really benefit Mayo this year, because the Mayo fans bring a huge amount of hype, huge amount of colour, but for the players on the pitch, they can also add a lot of negativity and anxiety, which can be actually quite debilitating. What's your take on that?
I do see it both ways, to be honest. Like, I remember the 2015 semi-final when they drew with Dublin. They came from 6 points down. And early on, they came from 6 points down when it looked like the game was dead and buried. And it was like, okay, just go on and win it. Now you're obviously the better team. And when they got to that point, when they could see the line, they all froze. And I do think that was sort of feeding from the crowd as well. But on the other hand, like, I've seen Dublin just put teams away. Like, you know, there's games that are finished after 40, 50 minutes and it's dead. And I think that would have happened a lot more in Mayo Dublin games. Now, not all the time, because Mayo they have been one of the better teams, better than other teams in the country. But Dublin, they can rack up a big score like that. They score 2 goals, game's dead. But the Mayo crowd don't let you stop. Like, you know, I remember going down to Westport on a train one time, and genuinely, this is before an All-Ireland semi-final against Kerry in 2017, and you could feel it in the air. Like, it was thick. Like, and everyone on the train was just talking about Sunday. Didn't even need to mention what they were talking about specifically. Yeah. They all knew what they were talking about, and I think that helps overall for Mayo more so than a crowd with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, but I think the example that he gave was it struck me because I was watching that match. He was talking about the All-Ireland final against Dublin in 2013. And Andy Moran scores a goal in the second half. It's around 56 minutes gone, I think. And I remember watching it thinking, this is it. They're going to kick on now and they're going to win it. But the reaction that it had for a team that haven't won since 1951 but have gotten so close so many times, it's not enthusiasm that the crowd imbues them with. It's nervousness, because of course it is, because they're like, oh my God, we might actually win it. Are we going to mess it up? Yeah. And the players then, that's transmitted to them as opposed to positivity.
But would they have that anyway if there was no crowd? Like, even imagine Mayo now are in the All-Ireland final against Dublin again, and you know they're getting close. They can see the finish line. There's still going to be that weight of expectation. They know how much it means to the county, and they know themselves. Like, you know, all these thoughts will come in 1951, or we failed before. How many great players have gone before us and failed? I do think that would seep in anyway. Like, the crowd probably does play a bit of a part, but I just think, like, and especially, I'm surprised that James Horan say ahead of the semi-final, because Tipperary's football team are notoriously not well followed, and like a Mayo crowd at that game would definitely help, whereas the Tipperary one wouldn't even come close to it. Yeah,
and like it's discounting Tipperary too early anyway, because they played out of their skin against Cork. I wanted to move on to this anyway. You know, they have players who can take really great scores. They play fast, open football. Going up against Mayo this weekend, what will Tipp look to target and exploit on Sunday?
Like, yeah, but this is the thing. Like, Tipperary are a really good team. Like, I had to accept that myself in 2016 when they beat Derry in round 4 of the qualifiers to get into the quarterfinals. And look, Derry should have won, but but Tipp just didn't go away. Like, and Derry kept going at them. Like, I sound like an Ulster man, but they should have just shut the game down. But Derry just let the game be end to end, and Conor Sweeney just announced himself to every Derry person who didn't know him. But I think this is a really interesting game because I think the strengths of both teams are targeting a weakness of the other team. So I think in Tipperary's point of view, if you look at that middle, like with Brian and Casey and Colin O'Riordan, they're big units. They'll win ball. All the players around them, like Fahy and Maher and Brian Fox nipping in around and Robbie Kiley, they're animals, and they just have a different instinct than all their players. And I think, like, when you look at somebody like David Clark, and like we talk about this all the time, he's a great goalkeeper, but teams will target him because he's slower with his kicks. The trajectory of his kicks aren't great. That will just feed right into Tipperary. Tipperary will dominate that middle third. But on the other hand, the way Tipperary set up, they bring a lot of men back. They want to free up Quinlivan and Sweeney. What that does is it frees up runners for Mayo, and we know that there's no better team at running than Mayo. Like, this isn't going to be a Cork example where they're going around the outside. Mayo boys don't do that. They go at you. Like, they're impatient, and they will not stand back. Even if Tipperary have 13, 14 men behind, Mayo are going at them.
How are you calling it?
I think Mayo will win, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Tipperary will win. But I think it's going to be very tight. I think it's going to be a cracker because I think those little matchups I'm talking about, I think like Tipperary will force Mayo into a change in the middle. Aidan O'Shea will have to come out because you'll have Conor Loftus and Matthew Rowan in there, but there's going to be three big men for Tipperary. It's not enough. Like, Stephen Cohen might be used. Again, there's three. So O'Shea will have to come out. That starts to upset Mayo a little bit, but O'Shea's great out there anyway. I just think the running power, like, of Oisín Mullen, I think Oisín Mullen will be allowed a free roll because of the way Tipperary set up. I think Paddy Durkin and Owen McLaughlin, there's nobody to really watch them or put them under pressure. And I just think that they'll punish Tipperary a little bit more.
Yeah, and it seems that Oran it's obviously a work in progress because it's not long in development, but he seems to be introducing a lovely kind of brand of new youth in, but then relying on those older players who kind of matured now, the strike runners that they're coming from deep, but then they can lay it off to better players in the kind of that forward line, the half forward line, who can take really good scores. You look at Tommy Conroy that he's brought in this year, that's added so much.
And you can see the pressure is off, like, Killian O'Connor as well, who generally, in fairness, likes pressure, but even just from a positional point of view, because you have Tommy Conroy who's delivering, and you have Aidan O'Shea who's going in and out. So when he's in there, even if Aidan O'Shea's not doing anything, it causes problems, like, because
he throws players onto him.
Exactly, and then that frees up the other boys, and it allows. And what I've really enjoyed from Killian O'Connor's game this year is he's drifting out and he's getting on ball. And normally I don't like that with a corner forward, but I think with someone like him who's, he's not like he's not like, say, a Con O'Callaghan or a Paul Mannion who's just going to win ball inside and turn and go. Like, he's a bit more of a brainy player. He comes out and he plays those sort of measured passes that he knows that he would like if he's inside. Like, so he's just been able to sort of come out and he's able to get into space, like the way you would see Paddy McBrearty do it for Donegal or whatever, pick off scores whenever he can.
No, absolutely. For a young player, he has an ability to have time in the ball, which is the mark of a great player. I'm going to move on to talk about the other semi-final. I think the last 2 months have just been such a whirlwind for Cavan. It's been so enjoyable to watch. From going from the final day of the league to have a glimmer of getting into Division 1, and because of the way events transpired, to getting relegated to Division 3, then going into Ulster, beating Monaghan, Down, Antrim, and winning Ulster. Now they're coming up against a team who are possibly the best team to ever play the game. What are they doing this week? What's Mickey Graham saying to his team to prepare them for Dublin on Saturday?
To be honest, I really hope it's not like, Dublin are a big entity. Dublin are going to cause a lot of problems. I really hope they're not worried too much about Dublin. Like, you know what you're going to get with Dublin anyway. Like, they're the best team of all time,
Yeah.
But Cavan, if this was Donegal, for example, we would be excited. And, like, the Donegal mindset would be, right, we're ready to go and compete with them. And Cavan are not a flash in the pan. Like, they've won the most games in this championship. They've won 4. They've come from behind against Monaghan, against Down, against Donegal. Like, those games against Monaghan and Donegal, they were heavy underdogs. And they've done this now over 4 games. Like, so everything that we know about Cavan does not suggest that they're just a plucky underdog who got a lucky result. Like, they've done it throughout the whole Ulster Championship. So I do hope that they bring that attitude into the Dublin match. Like, it's an unbelievable task. Like, everybody has failed so far, but
Yeah. But have a
Cavan,
go. Give it a rattle.
That's it. And like,
yeah.
Look, I think Dublin will win. Like, we always have to qualify that anyway, but you get excited talking about how can a team hurt Dublin. And I genuinely think that Cavan have enough players, and they've got enough. Again, they've got stuff that can exploit Dublin's weaknesses, and then they've got enough big men about them that can definitely throw a punch at them anyway, if not knock them down. But they can cut them.
Yeah, and like it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to what sort of a challenge they put up against Dublin, because it's been difficult to assess Dublin and how good they are in comparison to other years going into this match, because they've really been in third gear so far. What do you make of Dublin this year compared to other years? Are they going to do 6 in a row? Are they going to canter to it?
I think they are, just because I definitely think they're not as good. And I think the season hasn't helped anyway. But their team just isn't as good, and they've done it 5 times in a row. Like, how much can you keep stepping up those gears when you have to? Mm-hmm. I still think they'll win it, because I think when it comes down to it, like, Brian Fenton and Kieran Kilkenny will just turn it on, and that'll be it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they'll just step it up a level, and a few more will follow them. But like, genuinely, what I'm looking at that Leinster Championship, I'm such a loser. I'm obsessed with Dublin, like, and I keep trying to find any sign that they've got a chink in their armor. And I ended up watching back those 3 Leinster Championship matches this week just to see anything, and it is tough. But what I notice is that the other teams they're not going at them. Like, and again, that's all well and good, me saying that, sitting on a chair back home, but like, Dublin conceded 27 points in those 3 games. And only 6 of them were from a free, from the other team. And Dublin's defenders are not that clean, but it just shows that the teams aren't going at them. And like, 3 of those 6 frees, so 50% of those frees were conceded by Paddy Small. Like, and there's another thing that teams need to be thinking about. Like, when Dublin drag all these men back, and we praise them for their work rate, but they're not, like, these are some of the most flair-based players in the country. Like, if Paddy Small is in front of you and the goals are behind him, go at him. Like, he doesn't want to be defending. Like, so but what happens is, when you're a small team in Leinster and you're playing Dublin, it's do not go into the tackle, don't get caught, move the ball, get it out there. So even when it's Paddy Small or Dean Rock, they're not putting them under pressure.
So if, for instance, it was Mayo who got to the final against them, or Tipperary, because they're big men and they're able to target as well, you feel that might be the chink, as in run at them and make them bring you down, get black cards, give kickable frees in front of the post, and chip at them that way.
Yeah, like, it's probably not even a run at them thing, but it's more of a mentality thing. Like, when you are in that situation, and it's game management. When you see it's Paddy Small or whoever, like, let's go at him. Like, I have noticed as well that they look particularly susceptible under a high ball, which Dublin never have, because it used to just be Rory O'Carroll and Philly McMahon, and then James McCarthy would come back and they'd clean up the breaks if they didn't win the high ball, but they just look a little nervous under there. And to be honest, like, what one pattern that I've noticed, and there's not a lot of patterns, is when teams win their own kickout, and again, that's easily said and done against Dublin, but when they win their own kickouts, because Dublin are pushed up to such an extreme, and that does them really well, there's so much space inside, and like, you would be surprised at how often, like, the defenders are just loose, because it's 3-on-3 in a 60-yard space. Like, you can't really mark that anyway if the ball's coming in good and it's coming in early. So there would be an element of high ball, which Cavan can definitely try out, be an element of putting it in early, and an element of not showing them too much respect, like, because not every player there is the best defender in Ireland.
No, you're absolutely right. I want to move on to the quiz segment, but just before we go, if Mayo get to Croke Park against Dublin and there are no fans, will Dublin get to 6 in a row, yes or no?
I think Dublin are getting to 6 in a row anyway. Like, you spend all this time talking about how Dublin can be hurt, and then, like, they'll win by 10 points on Saturday, and they'll probably win by 10 points in the final.
Well, this is it's all speculation, but it's great to be chatting about it again, and it'll be very, very interesting to see if that fan psychology thing does play out. Thanks a million for your insight. It was like talking to the beautiful mind there a little bit in terms of the pattern of Dublin. But we'll really test your sporting knowledge now, because we're going to how well do you know your sport quiz.
Let's do it.
Are you sufficiently intimidated?
Like, I was just going to say that intro was like, whoa. I already wasn't looking forward to this, and it's like, oh my god.
Okay, how well do you know your sport? GAA, Conán Doherty. 5 questions, 1 minute, starting from now. Number 1, Dublin are going for 6 in a row this year, but which one of this weekend's other semi-finalists last won Sam Maguire? Was it Cavan, Mayo, or Tipperary?
Mayo were 52, Cavan were 53, I think. So I'm going to go with Cavan because Mayo won 2 in a row before Cavan. So I'm going to go Cavan.
You're right in Cavan, but Cavan were 52 and Mayo were 50 and 51.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry.
But you got it right. We'll keep going. Number 2, Mayo have not won the All-Ireland title since 1951. How many times have they lost an All-Ireland final since last they lifted Sam? Is it
God.
7, 9, or 11?
That's a tough question. I'll
give you a hint. Oh, I was going to give you a hint. It's actually 9, and they've lost all 9 of them since 1989. Question 3. The 1982 All-Ireland final between Offaly and Kerry had one of the most famous dramatic endings in GAA history. What was the score of that match? Was it A, Offaly 115, Kerry 17 points, B, Offaly 116, Kerry 18 points, or C, Offaly 113 and Kerry 15 points?
I think it's C. Is it C?
It's A, Offaly 115, Kerry 17 points.
This is terrible.
No, look, I've given you a bounce back question after that because I wrote it and I was like, this is ridiculously hard. In that final, who scored the goal to deny Kerry 5 in a row?
My mind's drawing a blank now, Joe.
Oh, you know it. It's on the opening sequence to Sunday game. Seamus Darby.
I'm under pressure.
I know.
Seamus Darby. Did you already say that?
Yeah. Finally, I guarantee you get. Well, I don't guarantee you get this, but finally, Mick O'Dwyer is the most successful football manager in GAA history. How many titles has he won as a manager? Is it A8, B10, or C11?
It's 8 as a manager, isn't it?
It is 8 as a manager.
Come on. Keep going.
Strong. And although, sorry, just on this point, I do have to issue an apology to Kevin McStay, who was on this podcast a while ago, because I asked him what manager had won the most All-Ireland football titles, and he misheard me and he said Brian Cody, and I said no, it was Mick O'Dwyer. And he's technically right. Cody has won more All-Ireland at 11, but not football, which is Mick O'Dwyer. So out there, I am sorry, Kevin McStay. You text me following up, and you were right.
Yeah, I would have got that one. See, we giving him easy questions.
I know. Right, come here to me. Before we let you go, we're going to ask you to do one more thing, and that's take part in our poll. The greatest Irish sporting legend. We're going to roll a quick clip, and you want to pick which one is your favourite. So you can't get this wrong.
The heat by O'Driscoll. Oh, brilliant by O'Driscoll! It's towards Keane! Roy Keane with a captain's goal!
An absolute rocket. Rocket from Sheffield.
History has been made! Conor McGregor is the UFC lightweight champion! And the 16-time champion jockey, Tony McCoy, he comes storming up the hill to win the Gold Cup!
10, Rory. You know the storylines and the stakes for him. A win not just means the Masters, but it means the Grand Slam. And that's beautiful.
And Sonny O'Sullivan is going to take the world title.
The Dwyer Cup to Dublin's captain, Stephen Truxton.
The fighting pride of Ireland, Katie Taylor.
So, Conán, who's your all-time Irish sporting legend?
I was just waiting for Paddy Bradley of Derry to flash up there, and I couldn't see him.
He narrowly missed the cut.
I will happily get this one wrong to vote for Paddy Bradley. No, it's Roy Keane. Like I always, I just think it's Roy Keane. Just to when you think about soccer and the amount of players that play it, it's just truly global, and the statistics to get to where he got to, like, you know, at the top of the game, never mind do what he did at the top of the game then, and inspire some of the best teams into some of the best achievements. Yeah, no, I think it's Roy Keane.
Well, that's the second week in a row that he's won it. Thanks a million for taking part, for giving us your insight, all your thoughts, giving your best effort at the quiz. It's all about the trying.
Seamus Darby.
It's Seamus Darby. It'll be in the back of your mind forever, man. Conán, thanks a million for joining us. I really, really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed the semi-finals this weekend.
No problem. Cheers, Joe. Thank you.
Take it easy, man.